in these 4 different segments. And if we think about it, your financial personality assessment, that's helping you to understand your clients better. A portfolio construction tool that then allows you to easily and quickly create customized portfolios that best suit the particular individual you're dealing with. A cash flow tool that then takes those expected returns from that proposed portfolio and allows you to create complex or simple models that you're not spending hours and hours building out. And finally, you have the ability to generate documents specific to that client or that family that you're seeing, literally at the click of a button. So you might be thinking, ultimately, why WealthExplorer? What is it going to do for you? What it's doing is it's looking to guide you through a professional and systematic wealth management process that creates efficiencies for your business and saves you time. So if we just chat about our financial personality framework, we refer to it as the FPA, so our financial personality assessment. It was really one of the first elements of WealthExplorer to kind of grow legs and come to life almost 10 years ago. And since then, we've had over 17,000 people complete it, which has really allowed us to build this big database of information relevant to the questionnaire that we've been putting out over that time. And this questionnaire has been rigorously academically tested. We review it, we make sure that it stands the test of time, and it's gone through language experts, it's been through professors in behavioral fields to just make sure that we really are on the money with the questions we're asking, and ultimately with the results that you'd be getting from that questionnaire. So if we just have a look at what that would actually kind of mean for you, I think it's important. I'm sure you guys will have heard of risk profilers or tools that kind of assess that element, but really what our financial personality assessment is doing is it's much more of a risk mapping tool that's based on proven behavioral finance, and it's looking at a person's financial personality by really assessing their attitudes and their preference to risk in relation to money. And best of all, it's so easy to send on to your client, whether you want to send it as a link, in a personal mail, through WealthExplorer directly. You can send it literally via WhatsApp if you're a cool cat like that and you want to handle it in that way. Really is easy to engage with and use and become an integral part of your advice process. Once your client has completed this financial personality assessment, what you then see is this dashboard that generates directly in WealthExplorer for you. And what it does is it breaks up those questions into these results, and it's showing you how your client plots compared to an average investor on these 5 elements. So looking at loss aversion, gain attraction, volatility anxiety, intervention risk, and finally confidence and skill. What I actually would like to do, if you guys will just bear with me for a second, is show you WealthExplorer live. I think it really does come to life a little bit more when you're looking at it in a live demo mode. So just shout if you can't see my screen, but I should be sharing WealthExplorer now. Cool. So this is the financial personality dashboard that I was speaking to earlier, and this is literally generating the second that your client hits submit on their results, on their questionnaire. And what we can see here is exactly what I was just speaking to, those elements. And for me, 2 kind of key points are your volatility anxiety and your intervention risk. And if you think about volatility anxiety, those are the guys read a newspaper headline and have a panic and want to call you and want to find out, do they have exposure to Steinhoff? What does X mean for them in their portfolio? They're logging onto the platform and looking at their statements probably a little bit too often. And if you couple that with someone who's ranking high on intervention risk, those are the guys who are actually going to want to do something about that volatility anxiety. So you can deal with someone who's a little bit anxious as long as they kind of hold tight and just stick with you for the ride. But the guys plotting high on intervention risk, they're going to want to change the mandate that you've so meticulously set out for them. They're going to want to pull into cash, or they're going to want to follow what the Joneses are doing. And I think it's just such a powerful tool for you as an advisor to have at your disposal, literally before you've even gotten to know this client, is just to have these little pings to say, okay, I actually need to have a conversation with this person around this behavior. And ultimately what we're wanting to get from this, aside from building trust with your client, is just to hopefully coach them out of those less than ideal behaviors that, you know, so predominantly come through in all investors. I mean, we can all say we've had issues, you know, whether it's loss aversion or gain attraction or anything like that. And lastly, if you think about this confidence and skill bar, which is this green bar on the right here, this is also a really interesting kind of measure. It's looking at your clients. If they're kind of high in the green zone, they're the guys who understand active management. The guys who plot lower on this kind of green band, they're going to naturally prefer passives. They're going to want to go through a fee illustration with a fine-tooth comb. They're not 100% sure on the value that you can bring as an advisor. And what we suggest that our advisors do is repeat this questionnaire with their clients, preferably every year, because obviously your personality isn't static. And what you'd hope to see is that behavioral coaching, kind of reflecting as you build that trust and that relationship with this client, what you'd hope to see is their confidence and skill slowly edging up into that more green zone, which is just really kind of a nod in your direction as an advisor. Perfect. What I want to do now is actually just move into our portfolios tab. But before I do, it's quite incredible that our FPA actually risk maps into the portfolios tab, which I'll show you now. And what I want to show you is just how quick and easy it is to actually create a portfolio within WealthExplorer. So I'm kind of creating this portfolio for a specific client. And in this instance, we're just chatting to you guys about our global solutions. But what you're going to see is as I start to pull these levers on the left here, you'll notice that it starts to actually build out an efficient frontier for me. So I can select the platform I'm planning on implementing through. Let's just say I select CIG for now. I can then select the platform product, and I can select the approach, what currency I'm wanting to kind of implement via. So in this instance, I'm just going to select GBP, and you'll see then automatically this efficient frontier has built out for me on the bottom left over here, as well as a target asset allocation on the right. So firstly, before I dive into that, the way that the FPA risk maps over into the portfolios tab is via this green band you're seeing here. We refer to this green band as our composure zone, well, your client's composure zone. How comfortable are they with the portfolio you're suggesting to them based on the financial personality assessment you got them to complete? So it's really creating this overarching view to create a portfolio for a client that takes into consideration how they feel and their attitudes and preferences towards risk. Now, that's not to say that you absolutely have to now invest that client in this green band. All that it's giving you is more information for you to use as the advisor to then suggest a portfolio that makes sense for them. And of course, you would have more information than WealthExplorer does. So WealthExplorer isn't going to pinpoint, this is where you should invest in and it should be at this product. It's completely put in your hands to manage it yourself. You might know that this client, Kevin, if only, has won, the biggest Powerball last week. I think it was like 100 million or whatever. And they can actually afford to take on more risk than they're comfortable with. Or alternatively, they actually really want to take on risk, but they can't afford to be so aggressive. Completely in your hands how you want to manage that. And really what the system is doing is it's just placing that power in your hands. So you'll see that as soon as I start to kind of click along this efficient frontier, the target asset allocation on the right starts to shift. It's going to change those assets that I'm investing in based on where I'm looking at on that efficient frontier. Obviously, the higher we move up the efficient frontier, the more risk we're taking on. So much so that you can see, for instance, if I wanted to pinpoint this point, and I thought this was great for my clients, we would be targeting a cash plus 4.6 roughly % portfolio. And this is great now. If I look at this, I can see, great, we've got 40% in US equities, but what does that actually mean for my client? Who are the managers making up that allocation? And WealthExplorer makes it incredibly easy for you to then get a look through into that portfolio. As soon as I click fund composition, we can then see that within my US equities block, these are the guys that are making up that allocation. And similarly, if I was to, again, just move around, kind of get a lay of the land, you're again seeing those percentages change to reflect the point of the efficient frontier that I'm interested in. And I think what this all speaks to is just that kind of that story and that proposal that you're putting together for your clients. On top of all of that, it's a great compliance tick box. You've really mapped their personality. You've brought it into the way in which you're constructing a portfolio, and that can all form the basis of your record of advice to say, this is what your personality told me about you, and this is why I'm actually suggesting we place you in the green zone or inside. I mean, completely up to you. And I'll absolutely let our amazing Nick and Liam chat to you about the actual asset allocation and management behind it. But you can see that this point with all of these managers is actually just a combination of two of our funds, our Global Diversified Fund and our Global Equity Fund. And ultimately, the way that you would then implement this is just platform application form. You would write these funds name with those allocations, those percentages, and you know that you are then targeting this point on the efficient frontier. Really is, I mean, it took me not even a minute to construct that portfolio and probably another 2 to explain it to you guys. So it really is a quick, easy to repeat process as well. Cool. I'm just going to carry on from here back to my boring slides. Now that you've seen WealthExplorer, it's a little bit not as fun. If we think about the next element in this advice process, if we're looking at cash flow modeling, you can think the financial personality assessment was really looking at someone's willingness to take on risk, whereas cash flow is looking at someone's ability to take on risk. And I'm sure you've heard of different cash flow modeling tools in the industry, you know, floating about. Where we came from really was just, we had our advisors spending a lot of time building models, you know, using Excel spreadsheets and making assumptions and predictions. And it was just a really complicated, time-consuming process. We wanted to make it as easy as possible for an advisor to create a complicated cash flow model, if that's what they wanted to do, or a really simple, easy to understand model, all in the advisor's hands, up to them what it is they're wanting to present to their client. So we made it really easy with templates that allow you to quickly go through and see, okay, my client has a salary and they have and a discretionary investment. And what's so awesome about our cash flow tool is it actually links back to those proposed portfolios that you would have built out in the previous tab. So where you chose that expected return, that is the return that would plot forward over the time horizon you were looking at in your cash flow model. And I'm just going to preface this with our amazing partner relationship team would actually spend an entire session training you on cash flow. So I'm really not going to do it justice in a 2-minute allocation. Just to give you a really quick idea of what it can do. You can build multiple scenarios looking at if you lower monthly expenses, if you contribute more, pre-retirement, post-retirement, whatever you're wanting to kind of explain to your clients. And I think it's I think we could all agree that clients really respond well to visuals, and that's what cash flow is doing. We have quite a few of our advisors who actually model with their clients sitting next to them to say, okay, can you afford to reduce your expenses? Let's see what that does to these graphs that you're seeing on the right. So just to give you a really quick example of that, in this instance, I'm just changing my client's retirement date. I'm pushing it out 5 years to see what difference that would make to her income and expense summary, for instance. And you then see that green line kind of moving to the right, less of an income shortfall. My income shortfall starts to come in at a later stage. And this is all just allowing you to better communicate with your client, better understand the position that they're currently in, so that you can offer them really the best advice. And then just to finish off on our streamlined document. So what that is just white labeled documentation, whether it's a proposal document or a portfolio summary that is per advice firm. So it would have your particular branding and your particular corporate identity that's relevant, obviously, to your advice firm. And that really just speaks to your independence and the fact that you are your own unique firm and you've got your own messaging that you're wanting to bring to clients. And I think that's what I really love about this, is it's such an easy thing to set up and click a button that generates a document for you. And you then know that anyone in your firm who's generating documents, the clients are seeing the same messaging, the same branding, the same overall look and feel, no matter who's generating the documents. And of course, PMX can be as visible or invisible as you would want us to be. And just to finish off, I would like to just show you quickly. Forgive me, but I went onto FinSilNet's website and did a little bit of cutting and pasting, and just wanted to give you an idea of what an investment proposal could potentially look like if you wanted to customize it. So it really is just, in this instance, it's just a proposal document. It'll obviously pull all of the information that is relevant to the client you were working with within WealthExplorer. So it would look at, static information about the funds. It would pull the efficient frontier that you were proposing to them, that asset allocation that we looked at, a fund breakdown, and of course, following disclaimers, all of the nitty-gritties, a record of advice template, a client declaration that you can then use to really just complete that compliance circle, if you can think of it in that way. And again, if you wanted to just show a really quick portfolio summary, you could do that as well. You could generate it at a click of a button and just get a sense of what it is you're wanting to show your client. Cool, I'm just going to stop sharing. Hopefully I was within